The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, marked with the red flag that indicated it had come from somewhere high up the chain of command. Sergeant First Class Maya Rodriguez stared at her screen in the dim light of her office at Fort Bragg, reading the message for the third time. SFC Rodriguez, you have been selected to participate in a Joint Forces Combat Training Evaluation at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, San Diego, CA. Report date, 15 March. Duration, 2 weeks. Your expertise in advanced hand-to-hand combat and tactical training methodology has been requested specifically for this assignment. Maya leaned back in her chair, the old springs creaking beneath her weight. In her 8 years of service, she'd received plenty of temporary duty assignments, but never one to a Navy SEAL facility. The Army and Navy didn't typically play well together in the training sandbox, each branch fiercely protective of their methods and traditions. Something wrong. First Lieutenant Davis appeared in her doorway, coffee cup in hand. He was her current commanding officer, a decent enough guy who had the sense to let Maya run her combatives program without much interference. Got orders to Coronado, Maya said, turning her monitor so he could see. Davis's eyebrows shot up. SEAL country, that's unexpected. That's one word for it. You know what this is about. Davis took a sip of his coffee, curiosity evident on his face. Maya shrugged. Email doesn't say much. Something about a training evaluation. They want my expertise. She made air quotes with her fingers, her tone skeptical. Davis smiled. Maya, you're one of the best combat instructors in the Army. Hell, you're one of the best I've ever seen, period. Maybe they finally figured that out. Or maybe they want to prove a point, Maya said quietly. The lieutenant's expression sobered. They both knew what she meant. Despite her record, 3 Army Combat Excellence badges, 2 deployments, and a teaching roster that had trained over 500 soldiers in advanced hand-to-hand combat, Maya still faced the same questions, the same doubt, the same need to prove herself over and over simply because she was a woman in a male-dominated field. Well, if that's what this is, Davis said, I almost feel sorry for whoever's planning to test you. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Almost. I'd pay money to watch it. Davis raised his coffee cup in salute and disappeared back down the hallway. 2 weeks later, Maya stepped off the plane at San Diego International Airport, her single duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She'd packed light, utilities, PT gear, toiletries, and not much else. The California sun felt warm on her face after the cold, wet North Carolina spring she'd left behind. A Navy petty officer met her at the arrival area, holding a sign with her name on it. He looked young, maybe 22, with the kind of eager efficiency that came with being assigned chauffeur duty for visiting personnel. Sergeant Rodriguez, I'm Petty Officer Garrett. I'll be taking you to the base. Just Maya's fine, she said, tossing her bag in the back of the government sedan. The drive to Coronado took 40 minutes through traffic. Garrett made small talk about the weather, the best beaches, places to eat off base. Maya responded politely but spent most of the ride looking out the window, mentally preparing herself for whatever waited ahead. As they crossed the iconic Coronado Bay Bridge, the naval base sprawled out before them. Maya had studied the facility before arriving. This was where Navy SEALs came to be forged, the infamous Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL training, known simply as BUD-S, took place here. It was hallowed ground for naval special warfare, a place where legends were made and most men failed. And now she was here. First time at Coronado, Garrett asked as they approached the main gate. First time. It's pretty intense. You here for some kind of cross-training thing. Something like that. After clearing security, Garrett drove her to a small administrative building near the training complex. Inside, a senior chief petty officer processed her paperwork with mechanical efficiency, barely making eye contact. Maya had seen that look before, the one that said he'd already made up his mind about her before she'd even opened her mouth. "You'll be billeted in Building 7, he said, sliding a key card across the desk. "Training brief is at 600 tomorrow in the main instruction hall. Don't be late." "I won't be." "PT uniform. The commander will want to see what you can do." Maya nodded, taking the key card, looking forward to it. The senior chief glanced up at her for the first time, something unreadable in his expression. "You sure about that?" "Absolutely." He grunted and returned to his paperwork, dismissing her without another word. Maya found her quarters easily enough, a small but clean room with a single bed, desk, and locker. She unpacked methodically, hanging her uniforms and arranging her gear. Through the window, she could see the obstacle course in the distance, could hear the faint sound of instructors barking orders at running trainees. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother praying for you, Mija. "Show them what you're made of." Maya smiled and typed back, "Always do. Love you." She sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her hands. They were small compared to most soldiers, but strong, calloused from years of training. Hands that had learned to turn an opponent's strength against them, to find leverage where others saw only force. Her brother Miguel's voice echoed in her memory. "It's not about being the biggest or the strongest, Maya. It's about being the smartest, the fastest, the one who never gives up." Miguel had taught her that. Miguel, who'd earned his Marine Corps Eagle, Globe, and Anchor and had died doing what he loved, protecting his brothers in arms in the mountains of Afghanistan. She wore his dog tags under her shirt, close to her heart. Tomorrow morning, she'd meet the SEALs. She'd face their skepticism, their tests, their doubts. And just like every other time in her career, she'd let her actions speak louder than their assumptions. Maya stood and began her evening routine, stretching, shadowboxing, mental rehearsal. By the time she finally lay down to sleep, she was calm, focused, ready. They could test her all they wanted. She'd been tested before. The alarm went off at 4:30. Maya was already awake. She'd slept fitfully, her body clock still adjusting to the 3-hour time difference. But that didn't matter. She'd learned long ago to function on little sleep, to push through fatigue when the mission demanded it. This morning demanded perfection. By 5:45, she was dressed in her Army PT uniform, her hair pulled back in a tight regulation bun, her boots laced and double-knotted. She made her way across the base in the pre-dawn darkness, following the sound of cadence calls and the rhythmic pounding of boots on pavement. The main instruction hall was a massive building that smelled of sweat, rubber mats, and determination. Inside, roughly 50 personnel were already assembled, mostly SEALs in their blue and gold PT gear, but also a handful of other service members from various branches. Maya spotted 2 other women in the group, both Navy, both looking as uncertain as she felt about being there. A muscular man in his early 40s stood at the front of the room, arms crossed, watching everyone file in. His name tape read Thornton, and the trident pin on his chest marked him as a SEAL. His presence commanded the space without him having to say a word. "Take a seat," he said once the clock hit 600. His voice was gravelly, authoritative. "I'm Commander Jack Thornton, and for the next 2 weeks, you're going to be observing and participating in an experimental Joint Forces training evaluation. The Navy wants to know if there are combat techniques from other branches worth integrating into our special warfare curriculum." He paused, his eyes scanning the room. When they landed on Maya, they lingered for just a moment longer than necessary. "Let me be clear," Thornton continued. "We're not here to hold hands or play nice. SEALs are the best of the best, and our training reflects that. If you have something to teach us, great. If not, don't waste our time. Any questions?" Silence. "Good. Today is observation. You'll shadow our instructors during morning PT, CQC drills, and tactical scenarios. Stay out of the way, take notes, and we'll reconvene at 1600 for debrief." Dismissed. The group dispersed. Maya followed the flow of bodies outside where the sun was just beginning to paint the sky orange and pink. The SEALs moved with a casual confidence that came from years of training together, joking and razzing each other as they stretched and prepared for the morning run. Maya found herself paired with a SEAL instructor named Lieutenant Chen, a compact man with sharp eyes and a ready smile. "First time working with SEALs?" he asked as they began their warm-up routine. "First time at Coronado," Maya replied. "Army combatives, right? I read your file, impressive record." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Chen grinned. "Wait until you see what the commander has planned." The morning PT was brutal by design, a 6-mile run followed by surf torture, log drills, and a timed obstacle course. Maya kept pace, refusing to fall behind even as some of the other observers began to struggle. She knew she was being watched, evaluated. Every step, every movement was a statement. By 900, they moved indoors to the combatives' training area. This was what Maya had come to see. The space was enormous, with multiple fighting rings, heavy bags, and enough mat space to accommodate dozens of fighters at once. "All right, listen up," Thornton's voice cut through the chatter. "We're going to run through some close-quarters combat scenarios. Pay attention to the techniques, the speed, and the precision. This is what 8 years of SEAL training looks like." What followed was a masterclass in controlled violence. The SEAL instructors demonstrated disarms, takedowns, and neutralization techniques with a fluidity that came from thousands of hours of practice. They were good, Maya had to admit that. Very good. But as she watched, she also noticed inefficiencies. Small things. A slightly wider stance here, an overextension there. Techniques that relied heavily on upper body strength when leverage could accomplish the same result with less effort. She made mental notes but kept her expression neutral. During a water break, Thornton approached her directly. "Sergeant Rodriguez," it wasn't a question. "Commander, you've been watching pretty intently. See anything interesting?" Maya chose her words carefully. "Your men are highly skilled. The integration of Krav Maga and traditional Jiu-Jitsu is effective." "But," Thornton's eyes narrowed slightly. "But nothing, sir. I'm here to observe and learn." "That's not what your file says. According to your you're one of the best hand-to-hand combat instructors in the Army. Developed your own integrated system. Trained over 500 soldiers." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "So I'll ask again. See anything interesting?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "I see techniques optimized for operators of a certain size and strength. They work well for your average SEAL. And I work with a broader range of soldiers. Different body types, different strengths. I've had to adapt." Thornton was quiet for a moment, studying her. Then a slow smile spread across his face. It wasn't entirely friendly. "How about a demonstration?" "Sir." "Tomorrow, in front of the brass and the trainees, we'll set up a scenario, standard hostage rescue CQC drill. You'll show us what you've got." He paused. "Unless you'd rather stick to observing." Maya felt the weight of every eye in the room on her. This was it. The real reason she'd been invited. Not to share knowledge, but to be tested, to be put in her place. She could decline. Make some excuse about not being prepared, about needing more time to study their methods. That would be the safe play. But safe had never been Maya's style. "What are the parameters?" she asked. Thornton's smile widened. "Simulated hostage situation. You'll start with a training rifle. Your objective is to disarm yourself per protocol and neutralize 5 hostile targets using hand-to-hand combat only. Time limit, 2 minutes. 5 targets. 5 of my SEALs. They won't be going easy on you." The room had gone completely silent. Even the SEALs who'd been sparring had stopped to listen. Maya looked at the 5 men Thornton gestured to, all of them easily 6 feet tall, all of them outweighing her by at least 50 pounds. They stared back at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed amusement. She could feel the trap closing. This was designed to expose her, to prove that real combat effectiveness required size and strength that she simply didn't have. When she failed, and Thornton clearly expected her to fail, it would validate every doubt, every dismissive comment, every questioning look she'd ever received. Miguel's voice whispered in her mind, "Never back down from a challenge, Maya, but never fight angry either. Stay calm, stay smart, and use everything they give you." Maya turned back to Thornton and extended her hand. "I accept, Commander. What time tomorrow?" Thornton shook her hand, his grip firm. 800, sharp. The observation deck will be full. We've got visiting brass evaluating our training protocols. Should be quite an audience. Looking forward to it, sir. As Thornton walked away, Lieutenant Chen appeared at Maya's elbow. "You know that was a setup, right?" he said quietly. "I know." "And you still said yes." Maya watched the 5 SEALs who would be her opponents tomorrow. They were good fighters, maybe great ones, but she'd faced doubters before. "Let me ask you something, Lieutenant," she said. "What's the first rule of combat?" Chen thought for a moment. "Stay alert, stay alive." "Close." Maya turned to face him, her expression serious. "The first rule is, never underestimate your opponent." She walked away, leaving Chen staring after her, a thoughtful expression on his face. Tomorrow morning, in front of an audience of senior officers and elite warriors, Maya Rodriguez would either prove herself or become a cautionary tale. She had 63 seconds to make sure it was the former. Maya woke at 400 without an alarm. Her body knew what day it was. She sat on the edge of her bed in the darkness, listening to the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. Her mind was already running through scenarios, calculating angles, reviewing the mental catalog of techniques she'd spent years perfecting. She'd watched the 5 SEALs throughout the previous day, studying their movements, identifying patterns. Each man had tells, subtle shifts in weight, preferred striking angles, defensive habits born from repetition. By 5:30, she'd completed her morning routine, stretching, meditation, a light breakfast of oatmeal and black coffee. She avoided the mirror as she dressed in her PT uniform. This wasn't about appearance. This was about capability. The walk to the training facility felt longer than usual. The base was coming alive around her, morning PT runs, shouted cadences, the rhythmic sound of boots on pavement. But Maya moved through it all in a bubble of focused calm. Miguel had taught her this too. Before the fight, find your center. Fear is normal. Channel it. Use it. She arrived at the main instruction hall at 700. The observation deck was already filling up. Through the windows, she could see officers in their khakis and service uniforms, clipboards in hand. She recognized a few faces from photographs: a rear admiral, 2 captains, several senior members of the Naval Special Warfare Command. This wasn't just an informal demonstration. This was an official evaluation. "Big crowd," Lieutenant Chen said, appearing beside her. He handed her a bottle of water. "Word got around. Half the base wants to see this." "Great," Maya muttered, taking a sip. "You nervous?" "Terrified." Chen blinked in surprise. "Really?" "Of course. Only idiots aren't scared before a fight." Maya rolled her shoulders, loosening the muscles. "The trick is not letting fear make your decisions." "Is that an army thing?" "That's a staying alive thing." At 7:30, Commander Thornton entered with his 5 SEALs in tow. They were all in training gear, looking loose and confident. Thornton spotted Maya and made his way over. "Morning, Sergeant. Sleep well?" "Well enough, Commander." "Good." He gestured to the mat area where the scenario had been set up. "Let me walk you through the parameters one more time. There's a training rifle on that mark." He pointed to a piece of tape on the floor. "The scenario assumes you've just breached a hostile position. Your team has been compromised. You're ordered to drop your weapon. That's protocol when facing capture. Once the rifle is down, 5 hostiles will engage. Your objective is to neutralize all 5 using hand-to-hand combat only. Time limit is 2 minutes, Maya confirmed. Correct, but let's be realistic. If you're still fighting after 30 seconds, you've probably already failed. Real combat doesn't last long. Thornton's expression was neutral, but there was a challenge in his eyes. Any questions? Rules of engagement. This is full contact with safety protocols. Rubber mats, no strikes to the groin or throat. Everything else is fair game. My men will treat this as a realistic scenario. He paused, meaning they won't hold back. Maya glanced at the 5 SEALs. They were doing their own stretching and warm-up routines, joking with each other. The biggest one, his name tape read KOWALSKI, caught her looking and grinned, flexing his considerable biceps in an exaggerated pose. His buddies laughed. I wouldn't expect them to hold back, Maya said quietly. Thornton studied her for a long moment. You know, Sergeant, there's no shame in. I'm ready, Commander. He nodded slowly. All right then, we start at 800. That gives you 20 minutes. Use them however you want. As Thornton walked away, Maya moved to a quiet corner of the hall and began her final preparation. She ran through her breathing exercises, visualizing each potential scenario. 5 opponents, multiple attack vectors. She'd have to move constantly, never let them pin her down or surround her. Use their size against them. Stay fast, stay mobile, stay focused. Rodriguez. She opened her eyes. One of the 5 SEALs, his name tape read Martinez, stood a few feet away. He was younger than the others, maybe late 20s, with a serious expression. Yeah. Look, I just wanted to say, this isn't personal. The commander wants a good demonstration and we're going to give it to him. Maya stood, meeting his eyes. I appreciate that. You seem like a solid soldier. It's just 5-on-1 and we've got probably 80 pounds on you each. He shrugged apologetically. Math isn't in your favor. Math's never been my strong suit anyway, Maya said with a slight smile. Martinez huffed a laugh and extended his fist. She bumped it. Good luck out there, he said. You too. By 7:55, the observation deck was packed. Maya counted at least 200 personnel, maybe more. The energy in the room was electric, conversations buzzing, people jockeying for better viewing positions. This had become an event. Commander Thornton took position at the center of the mat area, a microphone in his hand. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us for this Joint Forces training demonstration. As you know, we're evaluating combat techniques from different service branches to potentially integrate into our special warfare curriculum. His voice echoed through the hall. This morning, Sergeant First Class Maya Rodriguez from the United States Army will demonstrate her approach to close-quarters combat in a simulated hostage scenario. He gestured to Maya, who stepped onto the mat. A ripple of whispers moved through the crowd. She could feel their skepticism like a physical weight. The scenario: Sergeant Rodriguez has breached a hostile position but is compromised. Following protocol, she must disarm herself. She will then face 5 opponents using hand-to-hand combat only. Time limit is 2 minutes. Thornton paused. Sergeant Rodriguez, are you ready? Maya walked to the mark on the floor where the rubber training rifle lay. She picked it up, felt its weight, ran through the muscle memory of handling it. Behind her, the 5 SEALs were spreading out, taking positions. She could do this. She trained for scenarios exactly like this: multiple opponents, disadvantaged positioning, size differential. Every variable could be overcome with the right technique, the right timing, the right mindset. But doubt crept in anyway. What if she failed? What if Thornton was right and this was just math? Mass times velocity, strength times leverage. What if 8 years of proving herself ended here on this mat in front of 200 witnesses? No. Miguel's voice, clear as day. You're not your size, Maya. You're your skill. You're your heart. You're every hour you've trained, every technique you've mastered. Trust yourself." Maya took a deep breath and looked up at Commander Thornton. "Ready, sir." "Opponents ready." The 5 SEALs acknowledged, settling into fighting stances. Kowalski cracked his knuckles. Another SEAL, JENKINS, bounced lightly on his toes. They looked confident, prepared, certain of the outcome. Good. Confidence made people predictable. Thornton raised his hand, a stopwatch in the other. The hall fell completely silent, 200 people holding their breath. "Remember," Thornton said, his voice carrying in the stillness, "in real combat hesitation kills. There are no second chances, no do-overs." He looked directly at Maya. "Give us everything you've got, Sergeant." "Yes, sir." Thornton's hand dropped. "Begin." The stopwatch started. Maya had 63 seconds to change everything. The first 2 came fast, JENKINS and Davis, rushing from her left flank in a coordinated attack pattern. Standard SEAL tactics, overwhelm with speed and aggression. Maya had been counting on it. She pivoted on her back foot, using the training rifle as an extension of her body. As Jenkins closed the distance, she drove the butt of the rifle upward into his solar plexus, not hard enough to injure, but enough to halt his momentum. In the same motion, she swept the barrel low, catching Davis behind his lead knee. Physics did the rest. Davis's leg buckled forward just as Jenkins stumbled back into him. Their timing, so perfectly synchronized a moment before, became their liability. They collided in a tangle of limbs, both going down hard onto the mat. Seconds 4-6. The scenario required her to drop the rifle. Maya released it, letting it clatter to the mat. Her hands were empty now. No weapons, no advantage. Except her mind. Martinez came from her right, throwing a fast jab-cross combination. He was technical, trained, his form textbook perfect. Maya slipped the first punch, feeling the air displacement as his fist passed inches from her face. The second punch she didn't avoid. She moved into it, inside his guard, absorbing the impact on her shoulder instead of her face. Pain bloomed. She ignored it. Her hands shot up, capturing his extended arm. She had maybe 1 second before he retracted it, before his superior strength overpowered her grip. 1 second to execute. Maya dropped her weight, pulling Martinez forward and down. His own momentum became her weapon. As he stumbled forward, she pivoted beneath his arm, rotating her entire body. Her leg hooked behind his knee, the same technique she'd used on Davis, but refined, faster. Martinez went down face first onto the mat with a heavy thump. Seconds 7-12. 3 down, 2 still coming. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She could hear the crowd now, gasps, shouts, the scrape of chairs as people stood for a better view. The noise faded into background static. There was only the mat, the opponents, the movement. Kowalski, the biggest of the 5, charged like a linebacker. No finesse, just raw power and mass. 240 pounds of muscle aimed directly at her center mass. A tackle like that would end the fight. She'd be on the ground, pinned, done. Maya waited, one more step, one more. Now. She dropped into a low crouch, lower than Kowalski expected. His arms, extended to grab her, passed over her head. In the split second of his confusion, Maya drove upward with her legs, all her power focused into her shoulder, striking his midsection at the precise angle to redirect his momentum. It was like trying to move a truck, almost. Kowalski's trajectory shifted just enough. Instead of taking her down, he stumbled past her, his own speed working against him. Maya's hand shot out, grabbing the back of his shirt, and she added just a bit more directional force, pulling, guiding, using his weight. He crashed into the wall padding with a boom that echoed through the hall. Seconds 13-18. 4 down, 1 left. Maya spun, searching for the 5th SEAL, HUTCHINS, the quiet one who'd been studying her all morning. He wasn't rushing in like the others. He was circling, patient, waiting for his opening. Smart. Jenkins and Davis were already getting up. She'd hit them first, and they'd had the most time to recover. The scenario didn't end until all five were neutralized simultaneously. If they kept getting up as fast as she put them down, she'd never win. She needed to change tactics. Maya didn't wait for Hutchins to come to her. She attacked. It surprised him. His eyes widened slightly as she closed the distance in 3 quick steps. She feinted high with a right hand, and when he raised his guard, she went low, sweeping his front leg. But Hutchins was good. He read the sweep, jumped it, and countered with a downward elbow aimed at her back. The elbow caught her shoulder blade. White-hot pain. Maya gasped but channeled it, letting the impact drive her into a forward roll. She came up just as Jenkins grabbed for her from behind. Seconds 1925. Jenkins's arms locked around her torso, pinning her arms. A bear hug. He had at least 70 pounds on her, and his grip was ironclad. "Got you," he grunted in her ear. The crowd's energy shifted. This was what they'd expected. The smaller fighter caught, overpowered, defeated by simple physics. Maya stomped down hard on Jenkins's instep, hitting the small bones on the top of his foot. His grip loosened for just a fraction enough. She dropped her weight suddenly, becoming dead weight in his arms, and threw her head back. Not a headbutt, but close. Jenkins flinched, his grip loosening more. Maya drove her elbow backward into his ribs twice. His arms fell away. She spun free and immediately had to duck. Hutchins was there with a roundhouse kick aimed at her head. The kick missed by inches, and Maya used his moment of imbalance to strike. Palm heel to his thigh, exactly on the nerve cluster. His leg buckled. Another strike, this one to his opposite shoulder, specific, targeted. Hutchins's arm went momentarily numb, his defense dropping. Maya swept his legs, he went down. Seconds 26:35. All five were down or recovering, but Martinez was already back on his feet and Kowalski was pushing up from the wall, shaking his head clear. Time was running out. She had to be faster. Martinez came in with a flying knee, bold, aggressive, dangerous. Maya sidestepped and used his airborne momentum against him, catching his leg and adding a twist. He spun in midair and landed badly, the wind knocked out of him. Kowalski was upright now, circling more cautiously. He'd learned his lesson about charging blindly. The others were stirring too. Davis was on his hands and knees. Jenkins was sitting up, blood from a split lip staining his teeth. Maya's lungs burned. Sweat stung her eyes. Her shoulder throbbed where Hutchins had hit her. She'd taken more damage than she'd wanted to show, but she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Seconds 36:48. Kowalski and Davis came together this time, coordinated. They'd adapted. No more lone attacks. Maya backed up, creating space, assessing angles. Davis went low, trying to take her legs. Kowalski came high, reaching for her upper body. Classic high-low attack, difficult to defend. Unless you didn't defend at all. Maya jumped, pulling her knees to her chest, letting Davis pass beneath her. She landed on his back for the briefest moment, just long enough to use him as a springboard, launching herself at Kowalski. Her knee caught him square in the chest. The impact jolted through her leg, but Kowalski stumbled backward, gasping. She rolled over his falling body and came up in a crouch. Seconds 49:58. They were all up again, all five, bruised, breathing hard but up. The crowd was roaring now, the sound like ocean waves crashing. She could see Commander Thornton's face in her peripheral vision, eyes wide, stopwatch forgotten in his hand. 5-on-1, again, less than 10 seconds left. They came all at once. No more strategy, no more technique. Just 5 trained warriors who needed to end this before time ran out. Maya's mind went blank. Not from panic, but from pure flow state, the place where thought ended and instinct took over. Every hour of training, every technique, Every lesson Miguel had taught her crystallized into a single moment of perfect clarity. She moved. Jenkins's punch redirected into Martinez. Davis's grab used to throw him into Hutchins. Kowalski's kick caught and twisted, sending him spinning. Her fists, elbows, knees, striking pressure points, nerve clusters, off-balance positions. It wasn't beautiful. It was chaos, controlled and directed. She took hits. A fist grazed her cheek, a knee caught her thigh, knuckles scraped across her ribs. But she kept moving, kept flowing, turning their numbers from an advantage into a disadvantage as they got in each other's way. Seconds 59:63. A final flurry. Martinez lunged, Maya ducked under, struck his kidney. Davis tried to grab her from behind, she dropped and rolled, taking his legs out. Jenkins threw a haymaker, she leaned back, let it pass and drove her palm into his sternum. Hutchins and Kowalski came from opposite sides. She spun between them, guiding Hutchins's momentum into Kowalski, and both men collided hard. And then, suddenly, she was standing in the center of the mat. All 5 SEALs were down. Some were groaning, some were pushing themselves up on their elbows, but all of them were down. Maya stood there, chest heaving, sweat dripping from her face, her PT shirt torn at the shoulder. Blood trickled from a cut above her eye. Her legs trembled with exhaustion. But she was standing. Commander Thornton stared at his stopwatch. Then he looked up at Maya, then back at the stopwatch. 63 seconds, he said, his voice barely audible. Then louder into the microphone. 63 seconds, all 5 targets neutralized. The silence that followed lasted exactly 1 heartbeat. Then the hall erupted. The sound was overwhelming. Maya stood in the center of the mat, hands on her knees, trying to catch her breath as 200 voices erupted around her. Applause, shouts, the stomp of boots on the observation deck floor. The noise rolled over her in waves, making her ears ring. She looked up, blinking sweat from her eyes. The 5 SEALs were getting to their feet, moving slowly, checking themselves for injuries. Kowalski was rubbing his chest where her knee had connected. Martinez was working his jaw, making sure nothing was broken. Jenkins pressed a hand to his split lip, blood bright against his fingers. For a moment, Maya wondered if they'd be angry, if the humiliation of being dropped by someone half their size would turn into resentment. She'd seen it before, male soldiers whose egos couldn't handle being bested by a woman, who'd make excuses or demand rematches or worse. But then Hutchins looked at her, and he was smiling. "Holy hell," he said, his voice hoarse. "That was incredible." Davis laughed, the sound slightly breathless. "Did you see that move where I don't even know what she did. 1 second I'm grabbing her, next second I'm on my face." "She used you like a damn weapon," Martinez said, shaking his head in amazement. "Threw Jenkins into me like a bowling ball." Commander Thornton was the first to reach her. He walked onto the mat, his expression unreadable, and for a heartbeat Maya braced herself for criticism. For him to find some flaw in her technique, some reason to dismiss what had just happened. Instead, he extended his hand. "Sergeant Rodriguez," he said, and there was something in his voice she hadn't heard before. Respect. That was the most impressive demonstration of close-quarters combat I've seen in 20 years of service. Maya shook his hand, her own grip still trembling slightly from adrenaline. "Thank you, sir." "I owe you an apology." Thornton's voice was quiet enough that only she could hear. "I set this up to test you, to see if all the hype in your file was justified. I expected you to be good. I didn't expect." He gestured at the mat, at the 5 SEALs who were now comparing bruises and replaying moments from the fight. "I didn't expect that." "Permission to speak freely, sir." "Granted." "You weren't the only one who doubted." Maya met his eyes steadily. "I've been proving myself my entire career. This was just one more test. I'm used to it." Thornton's expression tightened. "Well, you won't have to prove yourself here anymore. That's a promise." The other SEALs approached. Kowalski was first, his massive hand swallowing hers when they shook. "Ma'am, I apologize for the flexing earlier," he said, actually looking sheepish. "That was disrespectful." "It's fine," Maya said. "You were trying to intimidate me." "Did it work?" "Terrified me." Kowalski grinned. "Could have fooled me. You moved like you weren't scared of anything." Being scared and being controlled by fear are two different things. "I'm stealing that line," Jenkins said, joining them. He dabbed at his lip with a towel. "Also stealing whatever that throw was where you used Davis as a human shield. That was poetry." Martinez extended his fist for a bump. "Seriously, Rodriguez, that was masterclass. The way you turned our coordinated attack into a liability. We drilled coordination for months and you just made it work against us." "Numbers only help if you can use them," Maya said. "You got in each other's way." "Because you made us get in each other's way," Hutchins corrected. "That wasn't luck. That was battlefield geometry. You controlled where we could move." The observation deck was emptying now, officers descending the stairs to the training floor. A rear admiral, his name tape read PTRSON, made his way through the crowd, two captains flanking him. "Commander Thornton," Peterson said, his voice carrying authority. "I need a full briefing on what I just witnessed. That was not standard hand-to-hand combat technique." "No, sir, it wasn't," Thornton agreed. He gestured to Maya. "Rear Admiral Peterson, this is Sergeant First Class Maya Rodriguez, United States Army." Peterson studied her with sharp, intelligent eyes. "Sergeant, that was extraordinary. What system is that? Krav Maga, Systema?" "It's integrated, sir," Maya explained. "I've studied multiple martial arts, Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Judo, and adapted them for combat scenarios where size and strength differentials exist. The core principle is using an opponent's force and momentum against them while targeting specific vulnerabilities." "She makes it sound simple," Martinez interjected. "It's not simple." "Can you teach it?" one of the captains asked. Maya hesitated. "Sir, with respect, these techniques take years to master, and they're specifically designed for operators who don't have the physical advantages of a typical SEAL," Thornton finished. "Which is exactly what we need. The teams are opening up to more diverse candidates. We need training methodologies that don't assume every operator is 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. Peterson nodded slowly. "Agreed. Sergeant Rodriguez, I'm requesting that you extend your TDY here by an additional 2 weeks. We need comprehensive documentation of your system, and I want you working with our instructors to develop training modules." "Sir, I'd need approval from my command." "I'll make the calls," Peterson said. "Consider it done. Commander Thornton, I want a full curriculum proposal on my desk by Monday. Use Sergeant Rodriguez as your primary resource." "Yes, sir." As the Admiral walked away, more officers approached, all of them wanting to discuss what they'd seen, asking technical questions, requesting demonstrations of specific techniques. Maya answered as best she could, but exhaustion was setting in. Her shoulder throbbed where Hutchins had struck her, and she could feel bruises forming across her ribs and thighs. Lieutenant Chen appeared with a cold water bottle and a knowing look. "You need medical." "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Maya accepted the water and took a long drink, maybe some ice, and ibuprofen. "I'll grab the Korsman." Chen paused. "That was something else, Rodriguez. I've been around SEALs my entire career, and I've never seen anything like that. You took apart our 5 best hand-to-hand instructors in just over a minute." 63 seconds, Maya corrected with a slight smile. "Right, 63 seconds that just changed everything." He wasn't wrong. As the adrenaline faded and reality set in, Maya understood the magnitude of what had happened. This wasn't just a successful demonstration. This was validation, not just for her, but for every soldier who'd been told they weren't big enough, strong enough, the right gender or body type for elite combat. Her phone buzzed in her locker. She'd check it later, but she could guess. Word was already spreading. In the age of smartphones, someone had definitely recorded the demonstration. By tonight, the video would be circulating through military social media, through group chats and email chains. Kowalski approached again, this time with the rest of his team. "Hey, Rodriguez, we're grabbing beers at a place off base tonight. You should come. We want to learn everything you know." "I'm not sure I can drink on extended TDY." "One beer," Martinez said. "Call it professional development. We'll talk shop. You can teach us some of those moves. Consider it the beginning of your new teaching assignment." Maya looked at the 5 men who, an hour ago, had been tasked with defeating her. Now they stood there with genuine smiles, offering camaraderie and respect, not because she'd asked for it, but because she'd earned it. "One beer," she agreed. "But I'm telling you now, those moves take more than a bar napkin explanation." "Then you better clear your schedule," Jenkins said with a grin, "because we've got a lot to learn." As they walked off the mat together, Maya caught sight of Commander Thornton speaking with a group of senior officers. He looked up, caught her eye, and nodded. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. She'd come to Coronado expecting to fight, to prove, to defend her place. Instead, in 63 seconds, she'd done something more important. She'd changed minds. Her phone buzzed again. This time she checked it. A text from her mother. "Just saw a video someone posted. Mija, the whole family is cheering. Your brother would be so proud." Maya's eyes stung. She blinked hard, pressing her hand against the dog tags under her shirt. "I hope so," she thought. "I really hope so." Lieutenant Chen returned with ice packs and the corpsman. As they tended to her injuries, nothing serious, just bruises and a small cut that needed cleaning, Maya watched the training floor slowly return to normal. Other classes were starting, other demonstrations beginning. But something had shifted. She could feel it in the way people looked at her now, in the conversations happening in clusters around the hall. 63 seconds. Sometimes that's all it took to change everything. The bar was called the Anchor, a weathered establishment 3 blocks from the base that smelled of salt air, old wood, and spilled beer. It was the kind of place where SEALs went to decompress after training, where war stories were traded over cheap whiskey, and everyone knew everyone's call sign. Maya sat in a corner booth with the 5 SEALs she'd fought that morning, nursing a single Corona with lime. True to their word, they'd spent the first hour asking technical questions, how she'd calculated angles so quickly, what specific pressure points she'd targeted, where she'd learned to redirect momentum with such precision. But now, 3 rounds in for the men, the conversation had shifted. "So where'd you really learn to fight like that?" Kowalski asked, leaning back in the booth. His chest still bore a faint bruise from where her knee had connected. "And don't give us the official answer about Army Combative School. That wasn't standard curriculum." Maya took a sip of her beer, considering how much to share. These men had started the day as adversaries, testers assigned to expose her weaknesses. But something had changed in those 63 seconds. They'd become something else. Colleagues, maybe, perhaps even friends. "San Antonio," she said finally. "West Side, rough neighborhood." "Gang territory?" Martinez asked. "Some, enough that you learned to handle yourself or you became a target." Maya traced the condensation on her bottle. "My brother Miguel was 6 years older. He looked out for me, but he couldn't always be there. So he taught me." "Your brother was military?" Hutchins asked. "Marine, deployed to Afghanistan twice. He made it through Helmand Province, through some of the worst fighting of the war." Her voice softened. "IED got him on what was supposed to be a routine patrol, 3 weeks before he was supposed to come home." The table went quiet. They all knew that story. They'd all lost brothers. "I'm sorry," Jenkins said quietly. Maya nodded, accepting the condolence. "He was the one who taught me that size doesn't matter. Our old man wasn't around much, and when he was drunk and mean. Miguel learned to fight to protect our mom, to protect me. But he was small for a guy, 5'8", maybe 160 soaking wet. He couldn't outmuscle anyone, so he got smart about it. Leverage and technique, Davis said. Exactly. He studied everything he could get his hands on, books from the library, videos, anything. He'd practice on me, teach me moves, make me drill them until they were muscle memory. Maya smiled at the memory. I was 12 years old doing arm bars and hip throws in our backyard. The neighbors thought we were crazy. When did you join up? Kowalski asked. 3 months after Miguel's funeral. I was 19, working double shifts at a diner, going nowhere. My mom didn't want me to join, said she'd already lost one kid to the military, but I couldn't just exist, not after Miguel. Maya's fingers tightened around her bottle. He died protecting people. That meant something. I wanted my life to mean something too. Martinez nodded slowly. So you joined the army. Failed my first PT test, Maya said with a slight laugh. Barely made the minimum on push-ups. Couldn't do a single pull-up. The drill sergeants loved that. Called me Rodriguez the Weak. Said maybe I should try the Air Force instead. What changed? Jenkins asked. I got angry. Then I got over being angry and got smart about it. Maya met their eyes. I realized I was training like I was trying to be a 6-foot-tall man. I wasn't. I was never going to be. So I stopped trying to match that standard and started creating my own. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I spent every spare moment in the gym, but not lifting heavy like everyone else. I worked on speed, flexibility, technique. I found a Krav Maga instructor off-post who took me on. Then a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. I saved up money and spent leave traveling, 3 weeks in Thailand training Muay Thai, 2 weeks in Japan studying Judo. Building your own system, Hutchins said. Adapting what worked, discarding what didn't. By my 3rd year, I was winning base-wide combatives tournaments. By year 5, I was teaching. By year 7, I'd trained over 500 soldiers. Maya shrugged. But I still had to prove myself every single time. Every new posting, every new unit. Someone always wanted to test the female instructor. That's exhausting, Martinez said. It is, Maya admitted. Some days I wake up tired of fighting just to be taken seriously. But then I think about Miguel, about what he'd say if he could see me now. What would he say? Davis asked. Maya's expression softened. He'd probably tell me to stop complaining and get back to work. He was tough like that. But he'd also tell me that every person I train, every mind I change about what's possible, that's me carrying forward what he taught me. That's me making his sacrifice count for something. Kowalski raised his beer, to Miguel. The others lifted their glasses, to Miguel. They drank in respectful silence. After a moment, Jenkins spoke up. You know what's crazy? This morning I was sure we were going to embarrass you, not because you weren't skilled, but because the math didn't add up, Maya finished. 5 trained SEALs versus 1 Army sergeant who weighs maybe 130 soaking wet. On paper, it's a joke. But you made the paper meaningless, Hutchins said. You turned every advantage we had into a disadvantage. Our size made us slower. Our strength made us overcommit. Our numbers made us get in each other's way. That's the point, Maya said. People see physical disadvantages and assume they can't be overcome. But combat isn't just about who's bigger or stronger. It's about who thinks faster, adapts better, understands geometry and leverage and timing. Martinez leaned forward. Is that what you tell the soldiers you train? I tell them that their greatest weapon isn't their body, it's their mind. I tell them to study their opponents, find patterns, exploit weaknesses. I tell them that every person who underestimates you is giving you an advantage. Maya smiled slightly. And I tell them that being scared is normal. Miguel taught me that too. He said courage isn't the absence of fear, it's being terrified and doing it anyway. He sounds like he was a hell of a Marine, Kowalski said. The best. Maya touched the dog tags under her shirt. I wear his tags every day, reminds me why I do this. The conversation drifted to other topics, training stories, deployment experiences, the usual military banter. But something had shifted. The questions became more personal, the laughter more genuine. They asked about her family, her life outside the army. She learned that Kowalski had 3 daughters, that Martinez was getting married in 6 months, that Jenkins was writing a novel in his spare time. By the time they left the bar, walking back toward the base in the cool San Diego night, Maya felt something she hadn't expected to feel when she'd arrived at Coronado. She felt like she belonged. "Hey, Rodriguez," Hutchins said as they reached the main gate. "Tomorrow, when you start working with Commander Thornton on that curriculum, we want to be your test subjects, all 5 of us." "You sure about that?" Maya asked. "I'm not easy on students." "After this morning, we'd expect nothing less," Davis said with a grin. They exchanged fist bumps and headed to their respective barracks. Maya walked slowly, in no hurry to reach her quarters. The base was quiet at this hour, just the distant sound of waves and the occasional footsteps of roving security patrols. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lieutenant Davis back at Fort Bragg. "Holy hell, Rodriguez. The video is everywhere. You're famous. How does it feel?" Maya thought about that. Famous wasn't what she'd wanted. Recognition, respect, validation, sure. But fame felt strange, uncomfortable. She typed back, "Feels like I've got a lot of people counting on me now. Better not screw it up." "You won't," Davis replied. "You never do." Maya looked up at the stars, bright and clear in the California sky. Somewhere out there, she liked to think Miguel was watching, proud of his little sister who'd taken everything he'd taught her and turned it into something bigger than either of them could have imagined. "Thanks, hermano," she whispered to the night, "for everything." The stars didn't answer, but somehow, she felt like they didn't need to. She already knew what Miguel would say. Keep fighting, keep proving them wrong, keep being you. And that's exactly what she intended to do. The alarm went off at 4:30, just like every morning. But this time, Maya woke with a sense of purpose that felt different. Today wasn't about proving herself. Today was about building something that would last long after she left Coronado. By 600, she was in Commander Thornton's office, a small utilitarian space overlooking the training grounds. The walls were covered with photos, SEAL teams in combat zones, training exercises, graduation classes stretching back decades. Thornton sat behind his desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, reviewing documents. "Morning, Sergeant. Coffee." "Please." He poured 2 cups from a pot that looked like it had been brewing since 400. The coffee was thick, black, and probably strong enough to strip paint. Perfect. "I've been thinking about yesterday," Thornton said, settling back into his chair. "About what you did and, more importantly, about why it worked." "Sorry." "I've trained special operators for 15 years. I thought I knew what made an effective fighter: strength, speed, aggression, the ability to dominate physically." He removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "But watching you dismantle 5 of my best instructors in 63 seconds, you didn't dominate them. You outsmarted them." "It's not about being smarter, Commander. It's about being adaptable." "Explain." Maya set down her coffee cup. "Your men are incredibly skilled, but they've all been trained the same way with the same assumptions. When someone breaks those assumptions, doesn't fight the way they expect, it creates openings. I didn't win because I was better. I won because I was different." Thornton leaned forward. "And that's what we need to teach. Not everyone who goes through special warfare training is going to be 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. We're opening up to more diverse candidates, different body types, different backgrounds. We need training that works for all of them. That's going to require a fundamental shift in how you approach combat instruction," Maya said carefully. "It means teaching people to assess their own strengths and weaknesses honestly, then build strategies around them." "Can you do that in 2 weeks?" Maya laughed. No, sir, but I can give you the framework, the foundation. After that, it's on your instructors to build on it. They spent the next 3 hours mapping out a curriculum. Thornton asked questions, challenged assumptions, pushed back when something didn't align with SEAL training philosophy. But he listened, really listened, and gradually a program began to take shape. We'll need to test this, Thornton said, making notes on his tablet. Run it by some of the newer trainees, see how it integrates with existing protocols. I'd also recommend running it by your female candidates, Maya said. The sailors attempting Bud S. Thornton looked up. We only have 3 in the current pipeline. All of them are struggling with the physical requirements. Then let me work with them. Rodriguez, these women are trying to become SEALs. That's a different standard then. I know what standard they're trying to meet, Commander, and I'm not suggesting we lower it. Maya held his gaze. But I am suggesting we give them every tool possible to succeed. Technique can compensate for a lot. Let me show them how. Thornton studied her for a long moment. You know the failure rate for women in Bud S is. I know, which is why they need someone who understands what they're up against. Someone who's been underestimated and found ways to overcome it. Maya paused. With respect, sir, when's the last time a female SEAL candidate had access to a combat instructor who actually understands the specific challenges they face? Never, Thornton admitted. All right, I'll arrange for you to meet with them this afternoon. The 3 women were waiting in a small training room when Maya arrived. They stood at attention, their uniforms crisp despite the mid-afternoon heat. Petty Officer Second Class Sarah Chen, Seaman Jessica Martinez, and Seaman Recruit Amanda Walsh. Ages ranging from 22 to 26. All of them looked exhausted, bruised, and determined. At ease, Maya said, have a seat. They sat, exchanging uncertain glances. I'm Sergeant Rodriguez on loan from the Army. Commander Thornton asked me to spend some time with you over the next week and a half. Maya pulled up a chair and sat facing them. But before we start, I want to ask you something. Why are you here? To become SEALs, ma'am, Chen answered immediately. That's what you're trying to do. I asked why. Silence. Then Martinez spoke up. My father was a SEAL. He told me I couldn't do it because I was a girl. I'm here to prove him wrong. I want to be part of something that matters, Walsh said quietly. Something bigger than myself. Chen took a breath. Because someone has to be first. Someone has to prove it's possible. Maya nodded. Those are all good reasons. Now let me tell you why I think you're struggling. The women tensed, expecting criticism. You're trying to train like the men around you. You're trying to match their standards using their methods, and it's not working because you're not them. Maya leaned forward. That's not a weakness. That's reality. The question is, are you willing to get creative about how you succeed? We can't change the standards, ma'am, Chen said. The obstacle course times, the swim distances, the log PT, those are fixed. I'm not talking about changing standards. I'm talking about changing approach. Maya stood and gestured for them to follow her to the mat area. Show me a pull-up. Chen stepped to the bar, jumped, and managed 3 shaky pull-ups before her arms gave out. Okay, now watch. Maya jumped to the bar and performed 10 pull-ups, smooth and controlled. What did you notice? You made it look easy, ma'am, Walsh said. Look closer, watch my form. Maya did 5 more. What's different between my pull-ups and Chen's? Martinez spoke up. You're engaging your back more. Your shoulders are pulled down, not hunched up. Exactly. Chen, you're trying to muscle through with arm strength. That works for men with more upper body mass. For us, we need to recruit larger muscle groups, back, core, even legs for momentum control. Maya dropped from the bar. Let me show you. For the next 2 hours, Maya worked with each woman individually, analyzing their technique, identifying inefficiencies, teaching them how to leverage mechanics over raw strength. She showed them how to shave seconds off obstacle course runs by finding better angles, how to control breathing during underwater exercises to extend time limits, how to use technique in log PT to bear weight more efficiently. This is just the beginning, Maya said as the session wrapped up. What I'm teaching you isn't magic. It's not going to make Bud-S easy, but it will give you an edge. It will help you survive Hell Week, and it will prove that there's more than one way to meet the standard. Why are you helping us, ma'am? Walsh asked. Maya smiled. Because 10 years ago I was you, told I wasn't big enough, strong enough, the right gender for what I wanted to do, and someone helped me figure out how to succeed anyway. I'm just paying it forward. That evening, Maya found herself back in the training hall with the 5 SEALs. Word had spread about her afternoon session with the female candidates, and now half a dozen other instructors had shown up to watch. All right, Kowalski said, stretching on the mat. Teach us that arm bar variation you used on Martinez, the one where you dropped your whole weight. Maya demonstrated, walking through each step slowly, then faster, then at combat speed. The SEALs tried it, failed, adjusted, tried again. She corrected their form, answered questions, adapted the technique for different body types. Commander Thornton watched from the edge of the mat. At one point, Lieutenant Chen joined him. She's a hell of a teacher, Chen observed. Yeah, Thornton said quietly, she is. Can I ask you something, Commander, off the record? Go ahead. When you set up that demonstration yesterday, were you hoping she'd fail? Thornton was silent for a long moment. I don't think I was hopping for it, but I expected it, and that, he shook his head. That was prejudice, pure and simple. I looked at her size, her gender, and I made assumptions about her capabilities. I was wrong. And now I'm grateful she proved me wrong, because she's teaching us something we should have figured out years ago, that there are multiple paths to excellence. Thornton looked at Chen. The question is whether we're smart enough to learn from it. On the mat, Maya was sparring with Jenkins, demonstrating defensive techniques against a larger opponent. She moved like water, flowing around his attacks, redirecting his energy. The gathered instructors watched in fascination, taking mental notes. Beginning to think Coronado got lucky, Chen said. No, Thornton replied. I think Rodriguez got tired of waiting for us to figure it out and decided to show us herself. He was right, and over the next week, Maya Rodriguez would show them a lot more. 3 months had passed since the 63 seconds that changed everything. Maya sat in her new office at Fort Bragg, though new was a generous term. It was larger than her old space, with actual windows overlooking the training grounds. The promotion to Master Sergeant had come through 2 weeks ago, along with a new assignment, Senior Combat Systems Instructor for Special Operations Command. Her mandate was simple in theory, complex in execution. Develop and implement integrated combat training protocols across multiple special operations units. On her desk sat a thick binder, the finished curriculum from Coronado. What had started as hastily scribbled notes in Commander Thornton's office had evolved into a comprehensive training program that was now being piloted at 3 different special warfare facilities. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kowalski, check your email, you're not going to believe this. Maya opened her laptop and pulled up her inbox. The subject line read, Bud-S Class 347 Graduation. She clicked. It was a photo taken on the beach at Coronado. 23 graduates in dress whites, standing at attention, the sun setting behind them. But Maya's eyes went immediately to the front row. Petty Officer 2nd Class Sarah Chen, standing with her classmates, a SEAL trident newly pinned to her chest. The first woman to complete Bud-S training and earn the SEAL designation. Maya's hand trembled slightly as she read the accompanying message from Commander Thornton. Rodriguez thought you'd want to know. Chen made it through. Hell Week, dive phase, land warfare, the whole thing. She's not the only one either. Martinez is 2 weeks behind her in the pipeline, still going strong. Walsh recycled after an injury, but she's back in training, determined as ever. I won't say your techniques made the difference. These women did this themselves. But I will say you gave them tools they didn't have before. You showed them it was possible. Sometimes that's all anyone needs. The training program you developed is now mandatory for all BUD/S candidates, male and female. It's also been adopted by Army Special Forces, Marine Raiders, and Air Force Special Tactics. Your 63 seconds started something bigger than you know. Thank you for proving an old SEAL wrong, Thornton. Maya stared at the photo for a long time. Chen looked exhausted, bruised, thinner than she'd been 3 months ago. But she was smiling, and in her eyes was something Maya recognized immediately, the look of someone who'd been told they couldn't and proved everyone wrong. A knock on her door. Lieutenant Davis stuck his head in. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, still getting used to saying that. Still getting used to hearing it, Maya admitted. Got a minute, there's someone here to see you. Who? Davis smiled and stepped aside. A young woman in Army ACUs walked in, maybe 19 years old, nervous energy radiating from her small frame. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, I'm Private First Class Emma Santos. I just got assigned to the 82nd Airborne and I saw the video from Coronado. She spoke quickly, words tumbling over each other. I'm 5'2". I barely passed basic training. My drill sergeants told me I should reconsider my career choice because I'm too small for combat arms. But then I saw what you did and I thought. You thought maybe they were wrong, Maya finished. Yes, ma'am. I want to learn what you know. I want to be able to do what you do. Maya studied the young woman. She saw herself at 19, uncertain, burning with determination, needing someone to believe in her. Tell me something, Private Santos. Why are you here? Because I want to prove I can do this. Wrong answer, Maya gestured for her to sit. You're not here to prove anything to anyone. You're here because you're a soldier, and soldiers need to be combat effective regardless of their size. Yes or no? Santos blinked. Yes, ma'am. So let's start there. Not with proving, not with fighting prejudice, though you'll face plenty of that. Let's start with making you the most effective soldier you can be. Maya pulled out a training schedule. I run advanced combatives classes 3 times a week. Show up early, stay late, work twice as hard as everyone else. I'll teach you everything I know. Deal? Yes, ma'am. Santos's face lit up. As the private left, practically bouncing with excitement, Davis leaned against the doorframe. You're going to have a line out the door, he said. Every undersized soldier, every woman who's been told she can't, they're all going to want what you're offering. Good, Maya said. Let them come. That evening, Maya went for a run alone. It was her thinking time, when she processed everything happening in her rapidly changing life. The promotion, the new responsibilities, the weight of expectations from people she'd never met but who saw her as a symbol of something larger than herself. The video from Coronado had gone viral in military circles. 63 seconds edited into a highlight reel, shared thousands of times, analyzed frame by frame. Some praised it. Others criticized, claiming it was staged or that the SEALs had gone easy on her. The usual skeptics, the ones who'd always find reasons to doubt. But for every skeptic, there were 10 soldiers like Private Santos. People who saw those 63 seconds and thought, maybe I can do this too. Her phone rang. Unknown number but with a California area code. This is Rodriguez. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, this is Rear Admiral Peterson. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time. Maya stopped running. No, sir, not at all. I wanted to personally inform you that your training curriculum has been officially adopted by Naval Special Warfare Command. We're also recommending it to Joint Special Operations Command for implementation across all Tier 1 units. That's incredible, sir. It's deserved. Your work at Coronado demonstrated a gap in our training methodology, one that needed addressing. but I'm calling for another reason as well." Peterson paused. "We're standing up a new special operations training facility focused on developing combat instructors, cross-service, cutting-edge methodology. I'd like you to be one of the founding instructors." "Sir, I'm honored, but I just received this new assignment, which would be absorbed into this role. Higher rank, broader impact. You'd be training the people who train special operators. Your techniques would reach every special operations unit in the military." Another pause. "I'm not going to order you to take it, but I will tell you that what you've started needs someone to see it through. Someone who understands that excellence isn't one size fits all." Maya looked up at the sky, at the first stars appearing in the twilight. She thought about Miguel, about the lessons he'd taught her in their backyard in San Antonio, about every soldier she'd ever trained, every mind she'd changed, every person who'd learned that their supposed limitations were just challenges waiting to be overcome. "When would I start, sir?" She could hear the smile in Peterson's voice. "How does January sound?" "January sounds perfect." Later that night, Maya sat at her desk with a blank document open on her laptop. She'd been asked to write an article for the Army's professional journal, reflecting on her experience at Coronado. She typed, "On a March morning at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, I stood on a mat facing 5 Navy SEALs. The demonstration lasted 63 seconds, but the lesson took a lifetime to learn. My brother Miguel taught me that strength isn't just physical, it's mental, strategic, adaptable. He taught me that when people underestimate you, they're giving you an advantage. And he taught me that the measure of a warrior isn't their size, it's their heart." What happened in those 63 seconds wasn't magic. It was preparation meeting opportunity. It was years of training, adaptation, and refusing to accept that my physical characteristics defined my capabilities. But more importantly, those 63 seconds weren't about me. They were about every soldier who's been told they're not enough. Not big enough, not strong enough, not the right gender or body type. They were about proving that excellence has many forms, and that our military is stronger when we stop trying to fit everyone into the same mold. Today, the first woman graduated from Bud-S training. She used some of the techniques I taught, but she succeeded because of her own determination, her own refusal to quit. She's not an exception. She's the beginning. The question we need to ask ourselves isn't, can someone who looks different succeed in special operations? The question is, are we smart enough to give them the tools to succeed, or will we keep using standards designed for only one type of warrior? 63 seconds changed my life, but they didn't change who I am. I'm still that kid from San Antonio who learned to fight because she had to. I'm still my brother's sister, carrying forward his lessons. I'm still a soldier who believes in service, sacrifice, and the idea that we're all capable of more than we think. The difference is that now I have a platform, a responsibility, and I intend to use it to make sure that the next generation of soldiers, all of them, have every opportunity to prove what they're capable of. Because excellence doesn't have a height requirement. Courage doesn't come in a specific size, and the measure of a warrior will never be found on a scale or a tape measure. It's found in the heart. Maya read it over, made a few edits, and hit send. Then she pulled out her phone and opened her photos. There was Miguel in his marine dress blues, young and proud and full of life. She touched the screen gently. "We did it, hermano," she whispered. "Everything you taught me, it's reaching people now, changing things, making a difference." The photo didn't answer, but she could imagine what he'd say. "Good, now get back to work. There's more to do." Maya smiled, closed the photo, and looked at her calendar. Tomorrow she had 3 combatives classes to teach, a curriculum review meeting, and Private Santos showing up at 500 for her first advanced training session. The day after that, she'd start preparing for the new assignment, for the opportunity to influence how an entire generation of special operators would be trained. all of it traced back to 63 seconds on a mat in Coronado. 63 seconds when she'd stopped trying to prove herself and simply showed who she was. Maya stood stretched and looked at the dog tags hanging by her desk. Miguel's tags, worn and faded, a reminder of where she'd come from and why she kept pushing forward. The journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But she was ready. She'd always been ready. And now, finally, the world was ready to listen.